everybody who's working in the area responds in the same way. The local jurisdiction, if it's in this town or that town, that particular local jurisdiction, police department or sheriff's office has the priority jurisdiction ownership of it, and they'll coordinate that. But I think we all kind of operate on the same kind of incident command, so we all know how to move into an area, have somebody take command and control, and then parcel out responsibilities to the other officers and agencies who come in. And it isn't a question of, this person's the chief or this one outranks that person. It's who's there, who's on the ground, and who can be responsible for a particular activity, for instance, clearing a building or collecting evidence or interviewing witnesses or making sure transports are done.
Looking at some of the pictures that we have seen, some of those surveillance images of the suspected gunman, is there anything in particular that stands out to you or anything that you see? From what we can tell, there appears to be a long gun, but anything that you're really zeroing in on here?
Yeah, I think the subject is carrying what it looks like very likely a semi-automatic rifle, although I've only seen a couple of quick images, as probably most of our viewers have. It has scope on it. It's something that clearly he's comfortable with, the way he's carrying it, and that kind of weapon allows for discharge of a huge number of rounds per second. You can issue a bunch of rounds very fast with clips that might have magazines that might have 25 rounds in them or 50 rounds in them. But he clearly was carrying a lot of ammunition with him, and that means a lot of preparation. It's not so much owning a gun or having a gun, right? There are lots of people, more guns in the United States than people, right? So there's lots of weapons, lots of firearms in the United States, but there aren't as many people who are used to carrying those around, having that volume of ammunition, and carrying it with them and using it. So I think, to me, that's particularly striking. And for the investigators right now, the challenge is that they're always going to be behind, right? And they're behind looking for somebody in the dark. That is a very difficult thing to do.
Is it curious to you that this happened at the time that it did? This was sort of after dark. It was evening time. Does that say anything to you, potentially?
Not particularly. I mean, I've studied hundreds of these incidents and been at a lot of them in response as part of my job for the FBI and running their program. And most of the shootings, I think it's absolutely, you're right to observe that most of the shootings happen during the day, but I think it's more of the opportunity of when this person decided to act. And, this is a weekday, and most of these types of shooters shoot in an area where they're familiar with, go to locations they're familiar with, and it we may find that it's something as as simple as this is a place where the individual worked, or someone who the shooter knew worked at that location. Maybe he had frequented the bar and the bowling alley, and he was out, expressing his frustration with the world, whatever his particular grievances, or real or perceived grievances are, at a time when he was available to do it. Whether it was his, he wasn't working, or something triggered it, like some reaction that he had with regard to a person he was interacting with.
Two of the things
members or friends.
Sorry to cut you off there. Two of the things I noticed that you mentioned were the scope on this weapon, as well as you said that it seems as though he had a large amount of ammo. Talk to me about the scope. Why would that potentially be an important factor in this investigation?
I think the scope goes to his mental state. I mean, that's maybe a little dramatic to say, but, in general, scope is put onto a weapon and it's used for hunting. And from a mindset standpoint, perhaps he was thinking he needed to hunt, right? If you're walking into a bowling alley and shooting people who are 15 or 20 feet away from you, very rarely do we see somebody who has a weapon that has a scope on it. Unless it was simply the serendipity of the fact that he had the scope mounted all the time on the weapon, and he chose to pick that up. But it's likely that he, this is not the first weapon he's ever owned, and he chose that weapon because he thought he could be more precise with it.
Gotcha. And Catherine, just one more question before we let you go. Where does an investigation like this go now?
I think it's in layers. Any investigation like this, in particular, this is so such a horrible situation. There are things that are just really required, and they're layered. First, you have to find the suspect. You have to get hold of him so that the communities, which in this case there's more than one, which makes it worse, are feeling comfortable that they don't have a killer outside hiding in their shed, in their garage, in their yard, or breaking into their backyard, or they're going to find them tomorrow morning when they go to school or they go to their business. Those are all things that run through your mind. So it's important that we find the shooter first. And then the triage and the recovery and getting the medical care for those individuals immediately kind of moves to survivors. And how do we deal with the survivors? How do we deal with the families? The massive evidence collection effort that likely will, the FBI very likely will collect the evidence in this case only because they have the largest teams, the largest number of people. So that's what's going on right now. The people who aren't hunting for him are working on how do we preserve the scenes, collect the evidence, and interview everybody we can possibly interview. And it may seem incredibly complex, but it's been done plenty of times before, and law enforcement knows how to get it done right.
That is a very sad reality. Catherine Strait, thank you so much. We're going to go back to our coverage from our Portland, Maine affiliate, WGME. Thank you.
That's two people that we heard of from Father Greenleaf and one of his colleagues. They're in the hospital praying for people and administering care, faith care, to families who are there. And there are so many families tonight who are obviously in anguish right now, trying to get information about their loved ones. I can also add one other thing to something that woman said earlier tonight, was that there was a lot of families that were gathered outside of one of the doors for a period of time tonight. Our understanding from our Johnny Maffey live on scene is that they've now moved those family members to a different location. We don't know exactly where, but they've been moved to another location where they can be briefed and get information. That's at least what we've been hearing and what we understand about those families who are desperate for information, who've been gathering at Central Maine Medical Center tonight.
And if you're just joining us, again, we want to show you, these are the pictures of the suspect released by authorities earlier tonight. Again, appears to be a white man with brown hair, a brown beard, wearing a brown sweatshirt, and also carrying a large AR-style rifle. It's unclear where this particular photo was taken. Some earlier ones released by the Androscoggin County Sheriff's Department did appear to be surveillance video, security cameras from the Just-in-Time bowling alley, one of the locations that we know authorities are focused on where they say this shooting occurred. So again, this is the suspect. Anybody with information is asked to call 911. Give any information you have. We continue to use our resources as well to try to bring you as much information as we can. We have multiple crews on the ground there, being safe, but on the ground there in the Lewiston, Auburn area. We also have our own Dan Leporello, who's live in studio tonight with more information as well. Dan, you've been updating, getting information about what's happening there in Lewiston as well.
Yeah, guys, we've been trying to get in touch with many of the city leaders in the city of Lewiston. I've been in contact with a few members of the city council tonight, all of them devastated about what has happened and unfolding still in that city this evening. Well, I know you guys were trying to talk with Councilman Larry Pease a little while ago by phone, and we had a misconnection, so I was able to talk to him off air. I want to let you hear a little bit about what he had to say, his message tonight for the people of Lewiston.
Well, my message to the people of Lewiston tonight is I have full faith in our police department. We have a great department that's certified. I know we're going to take care of this situation. It's a situation where it's never good, no matter what.
Could you have ever imagined something like this happening in your city?
Oh, God, no. No. I grew up in Lewiston, Auburn. I've been here all my life, other than maybe 2 years. But, no, I would have never thought this would happen.
That was Councilman Larry Pease of Ward 5 in the city of Lewiston. I've been in contact with not only him, but the council president and a couple others throughout the city tonight who are just heartbroken at what happened here. And the council member mentioned the Lewiston Police Department, and I know there's